Aruhi, do the Dhyanam, okay? Okay, Vaishani, go ahead. I think you're still muted.
What was the homework?
So today we're going to be covering verses 20 to 40, and that's going to be the next homework. Okay, Vaishani, go ahead.
श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः सहना भवतु सहना भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करभावहै तेजस्विनाभुदितमस्तमाविद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Okay,
हरि
Vaishani,
ओम
I said the Gita Padbiti, the Om Akhanda Mandalakaram. So that one.
ॐ अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दृष्टितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय
Okay, and then Aruhi.
अथ श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतायां वासुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचानूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्
Okay, both of our wheels are ready. So before we do that, we're going to go over verses 20 through 40, or 21 through 40. So we'll start with verse 21. Okay. So remember, before you start reading the Gita, you have to say what chapter and what the chapter name is. So when you started off, you would say, Ataha Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ditya Adhyayaha, which means chapter 2. And then you say the name of the chapter, Shankha Yogaha, and then you start reading, okay? So I'll read it one time first, and then I'll break it apart, and then the third time when I do it, we'll read it together. And then Adrita, do you want to also do the meaning after each verse?
Yeah, I will just do a shortened version of the
Okay.
meeting.
When do you want to use the wheel? Like after we cover the 40?
I think that would be better, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're starting from chapter 2, verse 21. So everyone open their Gitas to verse 21 for chapter 2. And then let's get started. Okay. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha वेदाविनाशिनं नित्यं यायेनमाजमव्ययम् कथं स पुरुषः पार्थ कं घटायति हन्तिकम्. So now I'll break it apart. वेदाविनाशिनं नित्यं यायेनमाजमव्ययम् कथं स पुरुषः पार्थ कं घटायति हन्तिकम्. Now let's do it together. वेदाविनाशिनं नित्यं यायेनमाजमव्ययम् कथं स पुरुषः पार्थ कं घटायति हन्तिकम्.
Okay, so if you look at your books, it should say, "O Arjuna, know the self to be eternal, undecaying, birthless, and indestructible. A person who knows himself to be so, how and whom can he kill? How and whom can he cause to be killed?" Right? So it kind of carries on from the past few verses about like the true nature of the self, like the Atman, right? And we see Sri Krishna telling Arjuna here that first of all, the Atman is eternal, right? It does not die when the body dies. And then that it's born and unborn and indestructible. That means it was never created and cannot be destroyed, right? And then it's unchanging, unaffected, such as like by time, weapons, or even death. And then because of this, he says, no one truly kills, and no one is truly killed, right? So you're not killing, like his argument was that, oh, I cannot kill my family, right? Remember that was his dilemma? So Sri Krishna is slowly saying, oh, you are not the one killing, and it's not as if the person you're saying is being killed is truly being killed, right? So so what Sri Krishna is like kind of at the end, he says, if you truly understand this like truth that I'm trying to tell you right now, how can you think you are killing anyone or that anyone is being killed? Right? So that's kind of what this verse is saying. So just to tie it back, so as we have seen, Arjuna's overwhelm and guilt from chapter 1. So in these few verses, Sri Krishna kind of points out to Arjuna why his like outlook on this whole situation is kind of like wrong, right? So yeah.
So now we'll move to verse 22. So if you have a pen, put a star next to this verse because you have to change the tune for this verse. Even though it doesn't look like you have to change the tune, you'll see when we do the other tune why this the way that the verse was broken up, it matches the other tune compared to the tune that we normally use. So in the meantime, write a star just so you know that this is where you transition from one tune to another, okay? Okay, so verse 22 goes, Vashamshi jirnani yatha vihaya navani ghrhnati naraparani तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णान् अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि. So now I'll break it apart. वशांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय नवानि गृह्णाति नरपराणि तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णान् अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि. Now we'll do it together. Vashamshi jirnani yatha vihaya navani ghrhnati naraparani तथा शरीराणि विहाय जन्नन् Anyani samyati navani dehi. So there's one word here where, because of the tune, it doesn't look like the word is broken apart, but you need to break that word apart in order for the tune to come. So the word where it says jirnani, um, you have to break it apart into two. So the anyani comes for the second part, and then the jirnan comes for the first part. So you break apart that word so it matches each part when you're reading it, okay?
Okay, this is a very beautiful verse. Um, I think w- like even when you like read the meaning, it's very beautiful. So in your books, it should say, just as a man gives up old garments and puts on new ones, so the embodied self abandons bodies and assumes new ones, right? So what it's saying is that if we look at phrase by phrase, it says Visam Shijirnani Yatavihaya. Just as worn out clothes, let's say your clothes are like kind of ripped or like so on, you like cast them aside, right? So it's saying just as worn out clothes are cast aside, Navani Grinhati Naroparani, a person takes up new clothes. So the person stays the same, right? Like when your shirt is ripped, you stay the same. You're just taking the shirt off and wearing a new one, right? Do you guys understand so far? Um, and then Sri Krishna says, Tata Sharirani Vihaya Jina. No, yeah, right? Yes. Tata Sharirani Vihaya Jina. It says, in the same way, the soul abandons worn out bodies, Anyani Samyati Navani Dehi, and the embodied soul enters the new body, right? So first, Sri Krishna gives you an analogy here, right? He says, oh, think of yourselves. Let's say you rip your shirt right now. What would you do? You would not make a whole deal out of it, hopefully. You'll like just take it off and wear a new one, right? So similar to this analogy, he's making the connection here. He's saying it's the same with the body and the soul. So the soul simple the like this body is simply being shifted between. So like you if this body's like you step, you kind of just like it's like a temporary covering. So you kind of like cast it away. And then the Dehi, the one who lives inside the body, kind of moves on the Atma to a new one. Okay? So do you see Sri Krishna's adding more reasons to kind of explain why Arjuna should change his mindset about these like about how he's looking out about the battle. Are you guys following? So if someone asks you so far, oh, why should Arjuna fight the battle? Can you guys give us a few reasons? There's been quite a few reasons so far in chapter 2 why Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna that, oh, you should not hesitate in this battle. Go ahead. Can someone give me one? Anyone?
It
Go
is
ahead.
duty.
Who's that? Was that Yashnil?
Me.
Oh, Shivam, go ahead.
It says duty.
Okay, it's his duty. Okay. Um, Idea.
It's because if he kills one of his relatives, they're not technically dying. It's just that their bodies, just like old garments, are being thrown away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the verse we just read right now, right? For some of the younger kids, garments just means clothes, okay? Um, just a synonym. Auditri, do you want to add on?
So basically, um, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna that
The soul never really actually dies. It's just the body that does.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if he killed his family, the soul would never die. So, he's not
Right.
technically killing.
Yeah. And he gives a lot of characteristics, right? In the verses before this one. Arka, do you want to have it?
All these senses, they just come and go. Everything just comes and go. Only the soul stays the same.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that everything's in like a transition phase for most of it. But the soul, the Atman is eternal, right? Remember, Sri Krishna writes out, oh, the soul cannot be killed, it cannot be cleaved, it cannot be dry, like all those verses. Do you remember those that you read? Um, so maybe kind of going through them would be helpful. So yeah, we can move on to the next one.
No, we'll go over that in the next few verses. It's like these 5 verses, they're kind of essential like to what the question that Adrita asked. So like say for example, if on the exam we asked you, oh, what are some reasons that hint hint, guys. So if what are the reasons that Sri Krishna was presenting to Arjuna saying that oh, like you are justified to fight in this battle, and he's bringing up these reasons. Say we tell you to list 2 to 3 reasons. These 5 verses are very crucial key verses to the answer to that question.
I know
So-
why I asked. Oh, my bad. I thought the souls being cleaved and cannot be dried came before, but they are coming after. Oh no. Who's sharing a whiteboard? Is it your shirt?
No,
Awesome.
I
Okay,
think someone just okay, but you can close it.
I can. No, I don't know if I. Yeah, I can. Okay,
Oh,
I'm gonna just fix some editors stuff. But
mhm.
we can move on.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so now we'll move to verse 23. And verse 23 is so now remember how we switched to the second tune? Now we're going to switch back to the first tune. So that's why you put the star there so you know that that's your transition point, but you have to switch back to the original tune, okay? So verse 23, Nainam chindanti shastrani, Nainam dahati pavakaha, Na chainam kledayantyapo, Na shoshayati maruta. Nainam chindanti shastrani, Nainam dahati pavakaha, Na chainam kledayantyapo, Na shoshayati maruta. नैनं छिन्दन्ति शस्त्राणि नैनं दहति पावकः न चैनं क्लेदयन्त्यापो न शोषयति मारुता.
Okay, so you guys might want to take out your notebook, make a note, like verse 23, um, about the soul, right? Because there's like 4 reasons he gives out here, right? Um, just I'm just gonna break it down. So if you want to note it down. So first, Sri Krishna says, Nainam chindanti shastrani, right? Meaning weapons cannot cut the self. So it's saying, um, like they're in a battlefield, right? So Sri Krishna starts with the battlefield itself. He says, like, in a battle, they're using like swords, arrows, and spears, and all that. So Sri Krishna is saying none of this can touch the self, the Atman. So, so you could think about it like it's not physical, so the self is non-material, so it cannot be cut via weapons. And then the next thing he says is Nainam dahati pavaka, meaning fire does not burn it. So we know that fire destroys almost everything we know, right? It just reduces bodies to ashes and so on. But Sri Krishna says even fire has no power here. So the self is beyond um heat and all that. And then the next one he says is nainam nachainam klidayan tapo. It's like water cannot wet it, right? We know that water soaks, dissolves, erodes, and so on, but the self remains untouched. Okay? And then finally he says, Na shushoyati marutaha. He says wind does not dry it. So um even here the self remains unchanged. So Sri Krishna lists out four things: weapons, fire, water, and the wind. They kind of represent, like um the classic forces of nature, and he's saying these cannot destroy the Atman at all. Okay? Does that make sense? Does this verse make sense? So if we tell you um on an exam, what does Sri Krishna mean by like Nachainam Kledayon Tapo? You'd be able to answer, right? Okay. I'll take silence as an agreement. So that was verse 23. So if you guys don't have any questions or if you don't want to add on, we can move on. Are we good? Okay, I think we're good.
Other three, go ahead. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just like for verse 23, I'm confused. Pause, no, not verse 23 actually. Verse no, actually 23, yeah. Verse 23, I'm confused on how to say the third line.
I have a
Um,
question for you, Ashri.
so do you have the small Gita?
Yeah.
Okay, so your third line would be the na chainem kle dayantiapo, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so um how you combine the two words, it looks like a really big word, but you combine the last two words together to make it sound like one word, okay? So it says kle dayantiapo. So you see there's a ty at the end, and
Yeah.
then the next word is apo. So the y and the apo combine together. So cle dayan tiapo. Can you try
So
saying it?
play the young Diablo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cle dayan tiapo.
Play the young Diablo.
Yeah. So do you want to say it? Na
But
China.
Nachayam Cledia Yantaipo.
Cle dayant. Say it. Cle dayant
Yant
yapo.
Yapo.
Cle dayant yapo.
Cledia Yantayapo.
Um, okay. Cle dayant yapo.
Cledia Yantayapo.
Instead of saying breaking it apart with the ty, just think of it as one word. So say tiapo.
Diapo.
So cle dayan
Cledia
tiapo.
Let me just
Diapo.
quickly share my screen. So it might be easier. So can you guys see the Gita? So I think I
Yeah.
don't know if I can draw on here. Maybe I can. You're saying to draw like separate
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would say this, let me highlight. Ooh, I like doing this stuff. So you would do this part first. Oh my God, maybe I don't want to highlight this part first, right? And then you would do the apple.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys want me to keep this up? Is this helpful? I cannot see what everyone wants, so you guys need to speak up. Is it helpful? Yes? Okay, I'll keep it up. So, oh, wait, hold up. It's my turn. Wait, no, is it my turn?
No, we didn't do verse 24.
Oh,
Yeah, so we need to do verse 24 and then okay, so let's move on to verse 24. So it kind of reinforces whatever was said in verse 23. and Aditya will explain that, but let's first read the verse. Achedhyoyam akledyo shashaiva cha nitya sarvagatasthanu achaloyam sanatanaha. Achedhyoyam akledyo shashaiva cha nitya sarvagatasthanu achaloyam sanatanaha. Achedhyoyam akledyo shashaiva cha nitya sarvagatasthanu achaloyam sanatanaha.
So if you guys are good with the pronunciation, we can move on. So it says, okay. So far what we have heard is the self cannot be killed, the body is like garments, and then nothing in nature can harm the souls. Like that is like a very brief generic summary of like the past like 3 verses or so, right? And now here's this achidoyam, meaning the self cannot be cut, right? As you see here, it says achidta, meaning uncleavable, right? Cannot be cut. And then it says adhayoyam. Can you guys see? Um, where is this? Adhayoyam, meaning it cannot be burnt. And it says achidoyam adhayoyam akledo shoshevacha. He cannot be he can neither be wetted nor dried. And then it says Nitya Sarva Gata Stanu Achaloyam Sanatana. So he is eternal, all pervading, immovable, motionless, and he's the same forever. So he's giving more reasons. So if you look at the words here, achidto meaning uncleavable, and it says adhayu is unburnable. Adhaya. And then it says akledya is unwettable. Um, Ashoshevacha, also undriable. And it says nitya, the self is everlasting. Sarvagata, all pervading. Stanu, immovable, and then achala. Like no, achala. It's meaning motionless. And then sanatana, eternal. So every word here is giving a trait of the Atman itself. So one way to kind of understand this verse is like sometimes you don't have to memorize it, right? So you can kind of say achidhoyam. It's like, oh, if you know Bengali, it might be kind of easier. You can kind of make the connection, oh, it's me, it cannot be cut. So you don't have to sit there memorizing the verses. If you kind of try to understand what each word means in itself, the meaning of the whole verse comes together. Because the meaning of this verse is just basically the meaning of each of these words combined. You know what I'm trying to say? Like it's easier to kind of think about it this way if it helps. Okay. Are we good? Hopefully you guys are taking notes. Can move on to verse 25.
So now we'll move on to verse 25. So these 5 verses, like we said before, these are very key verses, especially considering if you need to study for the test. 21 through 25, these are some very key verses because there's a lot of like specific word meanings that you can see it's broken up in the big Gita. And it's important to know what these words mean because like Adrita said, these are characteristics of the Atman that Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna that the soul has these characteristics, and that's just supporting his argument that it is justifiable to fight in the war. So now we'll move on to verse 25. अव्यक्तोऽयमचिन्तोऽयम् अविकार्योऽयमुच्यते तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं नानुशोचितमर्हसि अव्यक्तोऽयमचिन्तोऽयम् अविकर्योऽयमुच्यते तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं नानुशोचितुमर्हसि अव्यक्तोऽयमचिन्तोऽयम् अविकर्योऽयमुच्यते तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं नानुशोचितुमर्हसि
Okay. So once again,
Hello everyone. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Namaste.
Uncle.
Namaskar. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, Uncle.
Shreya, are you okay?
Yeah.
Don't see your mother. Yeah.
Oh, yes, I'm
Okay. Okay. All right. Harry says Shri. Okay. Good. Uh, okay. Sorry to disturb you. So you can go ahead. Yeah. Please. Yeah. It's good to see you. I could not resist to see you guys. Yeah. I'm at home, Bashkali, remote area. So let me show you. Uh, no, it's not showing up anyway. So please continue. Yeah.
okay. So let me just share the Gita again. You guys can see, right? Okay. So we were on the meaning. So it says of avyaktoyam. So it says the self is unmanifest, right? So when he says this, Sri Krishna is saying, don't look at for it with your eyes, right? Um, the self does not appear as an object, right? So it does not manifest itself. And then it says achintoyam. The self is inconceivable. So he says even like no amount of thinking, imagining, or reasoning can capture it, right? So first he says you cannot see it, it's unmanifest. And then he says you can't even think about it. And then it says avikaro yamuchyate. So the self is said to be unchangeable. So everything, if we think about it, everything the mind kind of touches, it changes, right? But the self does not. So and then it says tasmadevam viditvainam, therefore knowing the self. So Sri Krishna kind of pauses here. So he says, um, therefore knowing about the self, nanu shochitam arhashi, you do not deserve to grieve. So he says, Sri Krishna is saying grief no longer suits someone who understands this truth, this eternal truth about the Atman itself. Okay, so to kind of sum it up, Sri Krishna is saying first, the self cannot be perceived or imagined, right? It is unmanifest. And then it's inconceivable, meaning it's beyond the mind, right? And then it says, and then Sri Krishna kind of ties it together. He says, this true knowledge should end the grief that you have been the dilemma that you've been kind of feeling, right? So grief does not suit someone who kind of, who understands this eternal knowledge. Does that make sense? So here, I think this is what Ashurina was saying, the set of 5 verses. So I think it ends here. So if you were to kind of be asked, oh, can you describe the Atman, right? These are some very beautiful verses for you to kind of refer to. So it kind of breaks it down very nicely. Do you guys understand? Any questions or comments? No? Are we good? Do you guys understand? Okay. I guess we can move on.
Okay, so now we'll move to verse 26. So these are all, each verse has its own like important meaning, but for specific like understanding each word, that set of 21 to 25 is very important. And then from 26 onwards, you'll see how Sri Krishna kind of builds up on whatever he has said first, and then why that's significant in understanding Arjuna's dilemma. So verse 26. अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैनं शुचितुमर्हसि अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैनं शुचितुमर्हसि अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैनं शुचितुमर्हसि.
Okay. So, can you hear me? Right? Oops. My screen is acting up, guys. I'm sorry. So, here, this verse is very important, right? Because now Sri Krishna is kind of changing the strategy that he has been using. So, I guess he kind of sees that Arjuna still has not fully accepted this idea of the eternal self, right? So, he meets him kind of midway and then uses ordinary logic, right? So see, we kind of notice the shift. So up to now, Sri Krishna said the self is the Atman is, when we say the self, we're referring to the Atman, okay? So they're like interchangeable, okay? If I'm using either or. It's saying, first he says the self is unborn, eternal, indestructible, and then now he says, even if you don't believe that, listen carefully, okay? So it says, Ata chainam nitya jatam. It says, but if you think that the self is always born, so Sri Krishna kind of acknowledges this perhaps other belief that the self is being born. So he says, even if you assume the self is born again and again, nityam va manyase mritam. And then he says, okay, then dies again. So even if you believe death is final, right? He says, tatapi tvam mahabaho. He says, even then, O mighty Arjuna, even then. So, naivam shochitam arhashi. You should not grieve this way. So it says, in the alternative, even if you hold him, the self, to be subject to constant births and deaths, there's no justification, Almighty Arm, for your mourning for him. So we kind of see Sri Krishna taking a step back, right? So far he was like, oh, the self is indestructible, it doesn't change, and so on. And now all of a sudden he's like, all right, even if you don't believe what I've said so far, that's what he's saying in the alternative. He says, if you think that the self could be born and then it goes to constant births and death, he still reassures Arjuna. He says, even then you should not be mourning for him. Does that make sense? Right? So this is just another way to bring Arjuna to clarity. So you just make a note of the shift here if you're kind of confused, okay? Are we good? Any questions? Yes, no. Okay. I guess we
So,
can.
yeah. So now let's move to verse 27. जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्यु ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्यर्थे नातं शोचितुमर्हसि जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्यु ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्यर्थे नात्वं शोचितुमर्हसि जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्यु ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्यर्थे नात्वं शोचितुमर्हसि
Okay. So we kind of this verse kind of builds off the previous one, in a sense, in terms of logic. So at this point, it kind of feels as if Krishna is trying not to prove anything yet, right? No, like any further. But he's stating the reality. Like he's kind of explaining it to us. He says, Jata Shahidruvo Mrito. He's saying for one who is born, death is certain, right? And then he says, so that is a very simple truth. We all believe that, yes or no, right? That is a seen truth in this world. He says, Jata Shahidruvo Mrito. People who are born, death is certain. And he says, Dhruvam Janma Mrita Shacha. He says, and for those who has died, birth is also certain. So this part we may not see, some may not believe, but he assures us that this is also true. He says, know that people who are born, we're born, death is certain for us. We know that. Then he says, for even for people who have died, birth again is certain. It says, the next part is tasmat aparihayate. Therefore, that in a matter that is unavoidable, like he's what is, let's see, let's point it out for you. Aparihayate meaning in this inevitable matter or situation, meaning you cannot avoid this situation, okay? And that's what inevitable means. Like it will happen no matter what. Okay? I'm not sure if you guys are following. Inevitable matter or situation. Na tum shochitam arhashi. You should not grieve. Once again, Sri Krishna is telling Arjuna, do not grieve, do not grieve, do not grieve. Right? He's saying these are truths that you see, that for born death is unavoidable, you know that. And then he tells us again that for the ones who have died, birth will take place again. And then he's saying, therefore, he's saying, you know you cannot avoid this, right? This is bound to happen no matter what. He's saying, if you know this is gonna happen, then it doesn't justify for you to grieve. Does that make sense? Right? So if you look at the past few verses, if we were to kind of make a discussion right now, say, oh, why should why is like how is Sri Krishna kind of trying to shape Arjuna's mindset to say like you should not be craving. Like if Oshri and I tell you to give us one reason right now. This is like active recall if you use that study method. Like you study something and then you're trying to recall it without like kind of looking at the notes. It helps. It sticks in your mind longer. I mean, I guess it's not active if you kind of like open the book, but it's still helpful to kind of recall it. So, anyone give us one reason in this few verses that we have just discussed. Come on, guys. How about
Wait, could you repeat the question?
yeah. So it says Sri Krishna is saying, telling Arjuna, do not grieve, do not grieve. Like we see him ending with that kind of like statement, right? In the few verses. Can you I'm just saying, just to kind of recall. Um Why? Like, give us one reason that Sri Krishna says, oh, this is a reason, therefore you should not grieve. Does the question make sense? Okay. Aita, go ahead.
So like like one reason to not grieve might be like because like um is you like this verse it says you know that like death is gonna come anyways, and you if you like if they get killed it doesn't matter because their atman or like soul doesn't get destroyed, only their body.
Yes. So that is the verse you see here. And then if you go up, there's also more verses. See, no justification to mourn. It says improper to mourn. Do you see what I'm trying to make? Like, just trying to point out to you, if you're trying to understand, like here up until verse 24, he kind of explains what the self is like, right? And then for the next few verses, he goes into this reason. Oh, these are more reasons it's improper to mourn. Do you understand? Yes, no. It's just some things to kind of take a notice of. Like it helps you kind of like clump together the verses. Okay, I guess we can move on.
Yeah, I think it's an important point that Aditya brought up. Like at the end, you see Shodsitum Arhasi in a bunch of the verses. So it's important to consider that Sri Krishna, like he's bringing up these reasons and telling Arjuna that it's not fit for you to be grieving because said reasons. And these are a bunch of reasons that Sri Krishna is giving. So just keep those in mind, write it in your notebook, what those reasons might be, so it's easier when you start studying for the test later on.
Wait, this feels so college-like. It's like noted for the test. No, but no, she's very right. So it's gonna appear on the test. That's one reason. But like another reason is just to kind of like understand it. I think that's like the bigger part of it. But now the priority would probably be the test.
Mm.
But yeah. So like make an underline, make it like a star. Usually you forget what those star means, so make a note. That's helpful. So yeah, we can move on.
So now we'll move to verse 28. I know a few of you guys are talking about using the wheel. We'll use it eventually. Once we cover all up until 40, then we're going to use the wheel and we're going to call on people to kind of chant the verses because it is a lot of verses that we're doing today. It's 20 verses. So it's good, like if you guys know how to chant it, and also like if you guys have any questions on definitions, we can also talk about that too.
Maybe
But
I'll be
let's,
able, and can I add one thing?
yeah,
Perhaps we might also ask you to discuss the meening here and there. So maybe that's an incentive to listen.
Mm, yeah. It'll be like a combination of both. So you
But
guys
it's fun.
both ends, yeah. Okay, so let's move to verse 28. अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्तमध्यानि भारत अव्यक्तानि धनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्तमध्यानि भारत अव्यक्तानि धनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना अव्यक्तादीनि भूतानि व्यक्तमध्यानि भारत अव्यक्तानि धनान्येव तत्र का परिदेवना. So for when you're reading the verse, like we talked about before, you have to kind of combine the words together so that it falls based on the syllables. So it would be avyakta nidhananyeva. So the ny and the eva would combine together. So it would sound like one word when you read it. So then it's easier and it matches the two.
Okay. It's like hard to figure out where the mic is when I'm screen sharing. Um, so let's see. Okay, interesting verse. So, once again, we have to keep in mind that Arjun is worried about his relatives because he's studying this like body-centered view, right? Birth, life, death, grief. Like that kind of like process, right? Does that make sense? So now overall, like so far, Krishna's been trying to shift this the view to existence as a whole. And now he's Krishna saying the body comes and goes, but the underlying reality, the self, is unchanged. That's what you have learned so far. And now in this verse, he says, Avyaktadhini bhutani. All beings originate from the unmanifest, the avyakta, right? And then I'll explain how it says in the book later. And then Sri Krishna kind of begins by showing the source, right? He's saying everything um originates from the unmanifest. It's a vyakta madhyani bharata. And then, but they only exist in the manifest and the vyakta world in between, right? And then he's saying, like, kind of like life manifests itself as bodies, object, and experiences. But even then, this is temporary, right? Once again, he's reminding us it's temporary. It's like the middle stage. And then, um, Avyakta Nidananiva, he says, eventually they return to the unmanifest. So Sri Krishna completes the cycle and says, Tatra ka pari devina. He says, in this context, why is there a cause to grief? So if you look at here, it says, mystery surrounds the origin of beings, right? And then he says, mysterious too is their end. So the beginning is mysterious, how we come into being. Their end is also mysterious. He's saying only the interim, meaning in between this phase in the present, right? We can see clearly between birth and death. Does that make sense? And then he's saying, if this is the case, why should we grieve about it? Does that make sense? Yes? No? Somewhat? Okay. Um, like it doesn't end with Shochita Marhashi, but he's once again trying to point out why should you grieve? We can move on to the next one.
So now you see that. Oh, other three, go ahead.
Sorry, but I forgot to ask what question, no, not question, what verse do we stop like change the tune at again?
From before you're saying, or
Like after from I think it was verse we started the different tune at
yeah,
like verse 22.
yeah.
What
So
where do we stop?
so verse 22 is the only verse that you have that tune. And then you go
Oh,
back to the 23 as you go back to the old one.
oh, okay.
Yeah. But you're also gonna see verse 29. It's broken up differently, so you're gonna have to go back to the second tune. So you should also put a star next to this one
Oh,
too.
okay.
And it'll just be this one. And then 30, when we do verse 30, it'll go back to the original tune.
All right.
So you just need to be like aware of like once you practice, once you like take the time, you'll know which verses you have to switch to and which verses you stay in the original tune. But for example, 29, we switch and then 30, we go back to the original one, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. So we'll go to verse 29. आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवद् वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनमेदं चैव कश्चित्. Okay, this one is there's a lot of words that you have to like put together when you read it, okay? So I'll break it apart, I'll make it a little slower. आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवन् वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति Shrutvapenam Veda na chaiva kaschit. So when you do those like two endings, it would be Ascharya-vad vadati tathaiva chanya. So like it gets kind of combined together. And then the last part as well, Shrutvapenam Veda na chaiva kaschit. So when we put it all together, it would sound like Ascharyavat pashyati kaschitenam Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanya Ascharyavat chainamanya shrunoti Shrutvapenam veda na chaiva kaschit. It's a challenging verse, but we'll get the hang of it.
So you see where with the lines? So that's where you kind of break the things. Okay, so let's get to this chunk of it. It's a long one. So we're here we see it says Ascharya vat pashyati kashidenam. He says some perceive the self with wonder, right? So Sri Krishna begins by saying certain people, um, even when seeing the self in their own experiences, are amazed, right? They're they're awe and like they're left in awe because the self is subtle and like beyond the ordinary perception. And then it says Ascharyavat vadati tathaiva chanya. He says some speak of it with wonder, and so do others. So he's saying first perceive, meaning see, right? Pashyati, and then um here if you look at the meanings, pashyati means sees, okay? And then the second is um some speak of it. And then he says Asharya vash chainam anya srinoti, some hear of it. Srinoti, right? Is that the one? That's yes. Srinoti is hears. Okay? And then he's saying Srinoti Srutabhya Enan Veda Nachaiva Kashchit. It's hard to say it without the tune. But he's saying even after hearing about it, no one fully knows it. So first of all, Sri Krishna's what he's trying to say is that he points out that people can relate to the self in different ways, seeing, speaking, and hearing, right? These are all valid stages of understanding. You can understand something by seeing like a graphic, right? Does that make sense? It's like you can understand it by speaking. Like if you like sometimes when we teach, like so when people are te learning, a good way to learn is to teach someone else. So when you're speaking, you're learning. Some others learn it by hearing. Okay? So they're amazed. And now these are all valid stages of understanding, but yet no one can fully grasp it, right? So therefore the self that's why it says they're amazed and left in awe. Kind of hinting that it's beyond ordinary knowledge. Does that make sense? So like let's say if you like what could be an analogy? Let's say imagine the self as a vast sky. Like if you look up at the sky, right? Sometimes you're like, "Oh my God, it's like vast. It's huge. It's like it's you can like kind of conceive of how big it is, right? Like one analogy we kind of use is like, oh, show me how big the Atlantic Ocean is. You could go like this, right? But like to kind of actually grasp how big it is, it's like it's not possible for us. And then you kind of like, let's say you look at the sky and you're like, some can look at it and marvel, be like, oh my God, it's huge. Some can describe it like I'm describing to you. Some can like you guys can hear about it and you're still amazed. You're like, oh my God, this thing is like so vast. But yet we cannot fully capture how like vast the sky is. We can only experience it. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. Hopefully I'm breaking it down to be easier, not more complicated. You have a question, Shakni? I mean, no. Shatik? Okay, Shatik. So yeah, so in your book says that some have glimpse of him as have a glimpse of him as a marvel, some speak of him as a marvel, and yet others hear of him as a marvel. Yet no one understands him in truth, in spite of seeing, speaking, and hearing about him. Okay? Okay, we can move on to the next one.
So verse 30, we're halfway there. We have 10 more verses to go. But let's move on to verse 30. So this verse we switched to the other tune in verse 29. So everyone put a star next to it, hopefully. And then verse 30, we're going to go back to the first tune that we normally use, okay? देहि नित्यमबाध्योऽयं देहे सर्वस्य भारत तस्मात् सर्वाणि भूतानि न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि देहि नित्यमबाध्योऽयं देहे सर्वस्य भारत तस्मात् सर्वाणि भूतानि न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि देहि नित्यमबाध्योऽयं देहे सर्वस्य भारत तस्मात् सर्वाणि भूतानि न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि.
Okay, we're back with the term Shochi the Maharshi again in this verse. So Arjuna is still kind of like not convinced. How do I say that? Like he's still kind of emotionally paralyzed, for a lack of a better term. So he fears that, once again, as we have discussed in previous chapters, like he fears that killing his enemies, or like them, the Kauravas, he will destroy them permanently, right? That is kind of the understanding goes in with. And now, so far, Sri Krishna is trying to remove that fear. So it says, Dehi nityam avadhoyam dehi sarvasya bharata. O Bharata, the embodied soul, the Dehi. Remember we discussed in class in person the Deha and the Dehi? So the Deha is the body, and the one who resides in it is the Dehi. Okay? So that's what he says. That's why he starts with Dehi. He says, O Bharata, the embodied soul, Dehi in every body is eternal and indestructible. Remember, we discussed in the previous verses Nityam. Like you some what do you call some terms should become like familiar, like Shochita Maharshi. At this point, if Oshri and I ask, oh, what does that mean? You should be like, oh, to not born for, right? Because we've been saying it for the like last 5, 6 verses. So, and then Nityam, that's like another easy one. It's like always, right? He says Dehi Nityam. It's always like it's eternal. And then so he's saying that Sri Krishna tells Arjuna that the true self inside each being cannot be changed, right? And then the next one is Tasmat Sarvani Bhutani Na Tum Shochitam Arhashi. Um he says all beings they cannot, it says at no time can the spirit be embodied in all beings can be slain. So therefore there's no reason for you to grieve for anyone. So he says, Tasmat Sarvani Bhutani na tum shochitam arhashi. Let's see, does that explain the whole thing? So now Sri Krishna was like kind of tying it back together. He's saying that every living body has this body and a self. The body is temporary, it's perishable, it's changing, but the self is eternal, indestructible, and beyond harm. So understanding this, remove your fear, right? That's what we Sri Krishna's been trying to do like so far along in the chapter. Does that make sense? You might feel like it's repetitive, but there's a reason. So once again, here it says the spirit cannot be slain. Okay? Okay. Next one.
Okay, verse 31. Verse 31, Swadharmamapi chaveksha navikampitumārhasi dharmyadhiyuddhakshayonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate Swadharmamapi chaveksha navikampitumārhasi. धर्म्यधियुद्धक्षयोन्यत् क्षत्रियस्य न विद्यते स्वधर्ममपि चावेक्ष्य नाविकम्पितुमर्हसि धर्मधियुद्धक्षयोन्यत् क्षत्रियस्य न विद्यते.
Okay. So it says Swadharma api chaviksha na vikam pitumarhashi, right? He says you should not hesitate to perform your own duty, swadharma, meaning your own duty, right? So Arjuna's dharma as a kshatriya is to do what? To fight the war in a right, like to fight in a righteous war, right? And then he says, like, to kind of understand, you can be like, to avoid your own duty, if we go be like, if we go past it, out of fear of what could happen or attachment, that would be wrong. So Sri Krishna emphasizes um that you should not hesitate to perform your own duty and your own role. And it says dharmyadhi yuddhakshayonyat kshatriyasya shanad vidyate. It says for a warrior there's no better duty than fighting a righteous war. So once again he points it out to Arjuna that Arjuna that his highest duty for him, Arjuna, as a Kshatriya, is to fight when it is just, right? So avoiding battle is not virtuous at all. And so it's a dharmic battle, meaning it's a fight for righteousness, for justice, for protection, right? It's not for personal gain. So that's more the reason that Arjuna should not be hesitating to perform his own duty in this in terms of this battle. Does that make sense? So he explicitly says, Sri Krishna explicitly says to Arjuna in here that I have explained you thus far, and now you should not hesitate to do your own duty. So in your books, this is further, even from the point of view of one's duty, swadharma, you ought to not falter. There's no greater good for a Kshatriya than what a righteous war offers. But like he doesn't say any war, he says a righteous war. So he doesn't like, you know what I'm trying to say? So yeah, next one. It's kind of hard to grasp any of this if you're like going to them so fast. But you can take your own time to kind of delve deeper.
Okay, verse 32. यदृच्छाया च पूपन्नं शर्गदारामपावृतं सुखिनः क्षत्रिया पार्थ लभन्ते युद्धमीदृशम् यदृच्छाया च पूपन्नं स्वर्गदारामपावृतं सुखिनः क्षत्रिया पार्थ लभन्ते युद्धमीदृशम् यदृच्छाया च पूपन्नं शर्गदारामपावृतं सुखिनः क्षत्रिया पार्थ लभन्ते युद्धमीदृशम्
Okay. So it says, yeah, so Arjuna is still hesitant. We just kind of keep that in mind. So it says Yadrikchaya Chopapannam. It says what comes by chance or by fortune, right? He says, so Sri Krishna acknowledges this idea of how some things could come, what do you call it, by chance or by, like it could come out of like randomly, right? But then he says, Shorga Dharma Apavritam. He says the doors of heaven are opened. And then it says, Sukhina Kshatriya Partha Lavante Yuddhamidrisham. O Arjuna, happy are the Kshatriyas who attain this type of battle. So, what is Sri Krishna kind of trying to say here? Saying fighting in a just war, in a righteous war, is spiritually beneficial, right? So, even if it seems risky or difficult, the dharma of a warrior, of a Kshatriya, right? It has divine, what do you call it? Like results or something along that line. This is acting according to one's role, your one's duty. It creates both this idea of like both material and spiritual fulfillment. Like it says you attain, like it says it opens the gate to heaven, right? Um so it gives them another reason. So Arjuna, the Kshatriya must indeed be a happy man to whom comes unsought a war like this, because it allows them to open the gates to heaven. But is that the end all be all goal to go to heaven? What do you guys think? Is that the final destination for us? Yes, no? Okay, we can come back to it. Next one.
Okay, verse 33. अथ चेत्त्वमिमं धर्म्यं संग्रामं न करिष्यसि तथा स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं च हित्वा पापमवाप्स्यसि अथ चेत्त्वमिमं धर्म्यं संग्रामं न करिष्यसि तथा स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं च हित्वा पापमवाप्स्यसि अथ चेत्त्वमिमं धर्म्यं संग्रामं न करिष्यसि तथा स्वधर्मं कीर्तिं च हित्वा पापमवाप्स्यसि
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, so it says Atha chetvam imam dharmam sangramam na karishyashi. It says, but if you do not engage in this righteous battle. So he begins with a conditional. He says, if you refuse your duty, the focus that Sri Krishna is trying to make is like if you intentionally avoid your dharma. It says Tata swadharmam kirtim cha hitva papam vapshashi. He says then by abandoning your own duty and fame, you will incur sin. So first of all, it says swadharma. Here, let's point it out to you. Swadharma is one's own duty, right? And this is kirtim, reputation. And then it says hitva. So abandoning your own duty. It says what is it? Papam avapshashi. It says sin shall incur. So it says if you do not take part in this righteous war, you will incur sin, you will gain sin. Um, along with you failing your duty. And also kind of not thinking about your reputation. So he's saying your reputation will kind of go bad. You are failing to do your duty, and not only that, you'll also incur sin. Does that make sense? She's kind of scaring Arjuna, I guess. Um, to say you will incur sin if you do not fight in this righteous war. This is your dharma. Okay? Next one.
Okay, verse 34. अकीर्तिं चापि भूतानि कथयिष्यन्ति ते व्ययम् सम्भवेतस्य च कीर्तिर्मरणनादतिरिच्यते अकीर्तिं चापि भूतानि कथयिष्यन्ति ते व्ययम् सम्भवेतस्य च कीर्तिर्मरणनादतिरिच्यते अकीर्तिं चापि भूतानि कथयिष्यन्ति ते व्ययम् सम्भवेतस्य च कीर्तिर्मरणनादतिरिच्यते
Okay. So it says Akirtim chapi bhutani uh kata shanti devyayam. It says even if the mortal beings will speak of you or dishonor, right? It says sambhava sorry sambhavityasya chakirtir maranat atirichyate. It says for one who has already attained glory, dishonor at the same time of death is excessive. So in your books, it says besides everyone will it's kind of builds off the previous verse. Like if you go past your duty, it says besides everyone will speak ill of you all the time. People will say bad things about you all the time. More poignant than death is disrepute to a man accustomed to honored by all. So it's saying if you're already used to being like a good righteous person and everyone honors you, it is even more what do you call it? Poignant or like painful than death to be disreputed if like when they speak ill of you it'll hurt more. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm just trying to like keep it brief so we can do the wheel. Next one.
Verse 35. भयाद्रानादुपारातं मंशन्ते त्वं महारथः येषं च त्वं बहुमातो भूत्वा यशशिलाघवम् भयाद्रानादुपारातं मंशन्ते त्वं महारथः येषं च त्वं बहुमातो भूत्वा यशशिलाघवम् भयद्रानादुपारतं मंशन्ते त्वं महारथः येषं च त्वं बहुमातो भूत्वा यशशिलाघवम्
Okay. So it says Bhayadranat uparatam manashyante tvam maharata. It says the great chariot warriors will consider you afraid of battle. And then he says Yesham cha tvam bahumato bhutva yashashi laghavam. And for those whose minds you value, your fame will diminish. So what he's saying is that fear or hesitation at this critical moment of him avoiding his duty, it reduces one's honor, right? And he points out that not only will the great chariot warriors you're fighting like with, they will consider you afraid, right? And then overcome with fear. And he says not only that, and for those of whose mind you value, like let's say um you like value someone's, I don't know, compliment or like, oh, you did well, something like that. Um, even in those mind, your fame will diminish. So it's another reason that Sri Krishna gives here. Can move on.
Okay, 37. Oh no, 36. Um, अवाच्यवादंश्च बाहून् वदिष्यन्ति तवाहितः निन्दन्तस्तव सामर्थ्यं ततो दुःखतरं नु किम् अवाच्यवादंश्च बाहून् वदिष्यन्ति तवाहितः निन्दन्तस्तव सामर्थ्यं ततो दुःखतरं नु किम् अवाच्यवादंश्च बहून् वदिष्यन्ति तवाहितः निन्दन्तस्तव सामर्थ्यं तत दुःखतरं नु किम्
Okay. So this verse is pretty self-explanatory. It says, even so in the previous verse, he's like, oh, you will be the great car like chariot warriors will think you have ran away from war because you're scared, right? And this is like very dishonorable to a Kshatriya. And then it says, not only that, the people who has respected you before, they will despise you from now on, right? That's what he said. That's the previous verse. But now he says, Not only that, but your enemies will also indulge in derogatory speeches against you, meaning they will start saying bad things about you, and they will belittle you, like they will belittle you and like what you're capable of. And Sri Krishna is saying, what is more painful than that? Um, kind of like taking a poke at Arjuna. It's like there's, you know what I'm trying to say? So he's saying he's giving these small reasons to Arjuna, um, to why he should keep on fighting. Like you see a big shift between him talking about the Atman and all that, and all of a sudden he like kind of takes a step back and goes through these like more, I guess, understandable reasonings at the moment. 37.
Okay. Verse 37. हतो वा प्रप्स्यसे स्वर्गं जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महीम् तस्मादुत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः हतो वा प्रप्स्यसे स्वर्गं जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महीम् तस्मादुत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः हतो वा प्रप्स्यसे स्वर्गं जित्वा वा मोक्ष्यसे महीम् तस्मादुत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः.
So it says, Sri Krishna says, O son of Kunti, if killed in battle, you will attain heaven. So he assures him, it's like, anyone killed in this battle, you will attain heaven. And then he says, if victorious, meaning if you don't die and you have victory, you will enjoy the kingdom. He's saying, so the kingdom they're referring to, I believe, is Indraprastha, right? Or was it like something along that line? And he's like, if you die, he's saying there's an incentive in dying for this battle, you'll go to heaven. And then he says, even if you live, there's also another incentive. He's like, if victorious, you'll enjoy the kingdom. So he's saying, therefore, arise, resolved to fight. So he's saying, get up and take the resolve that you will fight in this battle. So once again, he's making this list and stack of list of reasons why Arjuna should come back into this battle. So next one. So these like last few verses that we've been talking, they're more like you can like read the meaning and kind of grasp the understanding. I think the tougher ones are in like the middle-ish of this chapter. 38.
Okay, verse 38. सुखदुःखे समे कृत्वा लभालाभौ जयाजयो तथा युद्धाय युजस्व नैवं पापमवाप्स्यसि सुखदुःखे समे कृत्वा लभालाभौ जयाजयो तथा युद्धाय युजस्व नैवं पापमवाप्स्यसि सुखदुःखे समे कृत्वा लभालाभौ जयाजयो तथा युद्धाय युजस्व नैवं पापमवाप्स्यसि.
Okay. You'll see similarly worded verses, or like the meaning is similar in multiple chapters in the Gita. I think one striking one is chapter 12. You'll kind of see it there. So he's saying treating alike pleasure and pain, gain and loss, victory and defeat, be ready for battle. This way you will not incur any sin. So he's saying, make a note of this. He's making two distinctions. Sukhe dukkhe, sukha dukkhe. between pleasure and pain, right? And then it says, be sane in both of these um, states. And then labha labho, gain and loss in these two, be consider them alike. And then he says jaya jayo, victory and defeat. In all like these three, what do you call it? Opposites? I don't know if that's the word. In these three, you should remain, um, you should treat them the same. So if you, I don't know, if you get 100 on an exam, you're happy. And then you don't do well on the next one. But then it's like treat them. It's easier said than done, but what Sri Krishna is saying, be alike in both states. He's saying this way you will not incur any battle. He's saying fight. Just fight this battle. You will not incur any sin. I'm giving you so many ways right now. He's saying just think of these things alike and be ready to fight. Sri Krishna definitely has a lot of patience. If you think about it. So that is what this verse is saying. Any questions? Um, you'll definitely see Sri Krishna making this statement multiple times to treat be alike in like opposite states. Sneak
I have a question to pose to anyone who wants to answer.
I got
So,
scared. I was like, to me?
no. Um, but so in this verse, Sri Krishna talks about these opposites. There is another verse that we've covered before that talks about these opposites. Can anyone tell us what that verse is? Could be an exam question, you know? And can anyone recite the verse and can anyone tell us the meaning of that verse? And there's a verse that's very similar to what is said in this verse that we've covered before.
I was giving a foreshadow. Or sure
Mhm.
is asking about the past.
Because we definitely have covered one verse
Yes.
in the past. Anyone want to guess?
You only have what? How many options? 40 plus 47. About 85 verses to go through. It's
Should I
one of
make it
those.
easier for them?
Only.
Should I just tell them what chapter?
That'll reduce it by half.
Yeah. Okay, it's in chapter 2. Now look through the verses and see what verse kind of connects with this one.
You can also eliminate 18 verses because think about if we discussed it today.
Only 40 verses. Wow.
Yeah,
No,
look through
no,
it. It's less than that actually.
yeah. You know, at this point,
Wait, is it
Which one?
14? I don't know. 14?
Yeah. Do you wanna why do you think it's 14?
Well, it says, for the meaning, it says contact of the senses with their objects generate cold and heat, pleasure and pain. They come and go, being impairments. These are the opposites of each other, like cold and hot, and then pleasure and pain.
Yeah.
And
Mhm. So, like you see in verse 14, Sri Krishna tells Arjuna that, oh, these are things that come and go. These are the opposites that kind of like happen in life. And so Sri Krishna tells Arjuna to bear with those opposites patiently. And you see a similar meaning in verse 38, where Sri Krishna kind of connects that to like the war and saying that yes, these opposites are gonna be there in life, in the battle, but you should be ready for battle regardless, without considering these kinds of changes or these kinds of opposites. So good, thank you.
verse 15 also says something similar. It ties together, of course.
Yeah,
Verse 14.
14
It
and
just
15.
so yeah, that is verse 38. Make a note of it. Maybe I don't know. Loki, make a note of everything.
I feel like this would be a question that the oldest group would get. So
Wait, this is the really good, like, okay, anyways, sneak peek into how we make questions. I'm kidding.
Uh, But yeah, so let's move on to verse 39. If we have time, we'll do the wheel. Did you have a question?
I'm sorry, this is a bit off topic, but like, I want to ask like during the test, are you gonna like allow the Gita for like the younger students and the middle school students?
I
Um,
believe so. I think that's what the first two groups have it. Oh, not the Gita, but your notebook. So you
yeah,
won't have the Gita when you're taking the test. You'll just have your notebook. So whatever verses that you've been journaling, whatever like notes that you've been taking, that's what you can use. And then for the oldest group, there's no it's not open book.
yeah.
Yashnu, do you have a question?
Is the test made already?
Is the test what?
Is
Made
the
up.
test made already?
Oh, clearly not. And
But
we
even
we
if it was, I mean, we can't really tell you the topic, so
No. The
if
topic
that
is
was the intention, it doesn't really matter for you. Um, just whatever Uncle tells you, whatever last class when he wrote it out on the board, um, that's kind of like you know what section you're in, and also just know that it's everything from chapter 1 and 2 that we're gonna cover.
Is there extra credit in the test?
But we still need to plan that out. But
yeah,
okay. If there's
Okay.
no other questions, oh, okay, other three.
On the test, is it like gonna be a mix of verses and also a mix of history? Like of the Kurukshetra War?
Um,
maybe. We honestly don't have the details yet.
Okay.
So the whatever you guys do is basically what we know.
Okay.
For,
Thank
uh,
you.
you guys have more questions?
Ada?
Ada?
So, wait, I forgot. So like, is like the test like next week? Because I think on the syllabus it says that.
No, it's not next week.
Okay.
It was moved to, I think, January. So, because the test is going to cover chapter 1 and 2. So, once we finish chapter 2, then I guess like we'll set up a date for
Yeah.
that.
We should mention the word test once in a while throughout the class. I love the participation. Um,
Yes, Neil has a question.
Is each question 1 point?
It depends. I think for like the younger kids, it was like 60.
Not like I meant like are the short answers and like multiple choice different amount of points, or are they the same?
I would assume so. Because especially like for like the oldest group, like you guys are gonna have, I guess, more short response, more conceptual kind of questions than just like knowing the verse off the top of your head. So I guess it depends. Like the multiple choice and the short response are gonna be obviously different
Oh, cool.
values for points.
I thought it was all in multiple choice for like the younger and the middle school.
It'll be a mix. Like it could be like multiple choice, it could be fill in the blank. Um, we'll give you guys more information when we have it. So, because you guys have a lot of time. We've only covered
Um,
up to verse 40, so
is it
you
gonna
guys
be
still have.
is it gonna be like like for example, like what does this word in Sanskrit mean? Like for example, like they'll give you like a word in Sanskrit and they'll tell you what it means.
Yeah, like for example, if it asks like for a word and then you'll have like multiple choice, like a bunch of words, and then you choose which one is right. It could be a fill in the blank, it could like show you the word and then you have to write what the meaning is. You never know. But we'll
Chill,
give you
bro.
guys more information when we also have more information and when the test is made. Um,
Okay.
but yeah. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll move on to verse 39. We have two more verses and then we'll be good. Verse 39. Eshate bihita samkhe buddhiryoge timam shrinu बुद्ध्या युक्तया पार्थ कर्मबन्धं प्रहस्यसि एष ते विहितः संह्ये बुद्धिर्योगे मां शृणु बुद्ध्या युक्तया पार्थ कर्मबन्धं प्रहस्यसि एष ते विहितः संख्ये बुद्धिर्योगे मां शृणु बुद्ध्या युक्तो यया पार्थ कर्मबन्धं प्रहस्यसि.
Okay, so I'm just gonna very briefly read the meaning you see here. It says, "O word, you know what has been declared to you as the truth according to the Shamkhya, the path of knowledge. Now listen to the teachings of the yoga, the path of selfless action combined with devotion, by practicing which the bondage of karma is overcome." So kind of a packed meaning, packed verse, but we don't have that much time. But um, so Sri Krishna is saying what so far has been told to you is the Shankha, the path of knowledge. Hence, we call it Shankha Yoga. You know, you can make that connection here. And then he says, listen now to the teachings of yoga, the path of selfless action, combined with devotion. So he kind of foreshadows what the upcoming verses are going to be about. So up until verse 39, from 1 to 38, he says that it was about Shaika, the path of knowledge. And then from 39 onwards to about 72, it'll be a combination of like selfless action, as we clearly, verse 47, about like the whole fruits of action, karma niva adhikaraste. Those verses combined with devotion. It's he says by practicing those, you will overcome the bondage of karma. So it's just, I guess, a summary verse of some sort. The last verse.
Verse 40. Okay. नेहाभिक्रामनाशोऽस्ति प्रत्यवायो न विद्यते स्वल्पमप्यस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात् नेहाभिक्रामनाशोऽस्ति प्रत्यवायो न विद्यते स्वल्पमप्यस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात् नेहाभिक्रामनाशोऽस्ति प्रत्यवायो न विद्यते स्वल्पमप्यस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात्.
Yeah. So this is a very beautiful and important verse. Um, we have heard of this verse being quoted multiple times. Especially so here it says in this path of yoga, right? Which he mentioned, the path of selfless action. Okay? Um, combined with devotion. He doesn't say selfless action by itself. He says it has to be combined with devotion. So, and then he says no effort is lost due to incompleteness. No contrary effect of an adverse nature is produced due to failures. Even a little observance of this discipline saves one from great fear. So it says, let's say you're doing something and you don't complete it. The little thing you have done, that it's not lost. And then he says, if you try to do something and you fail at doing it, that will not um give you opposite effects. It will not give you like bad karma or anything, right? He says even a little observance of this, even a tiny bit of observance of this discipline can save one from great fear. I think it reminds me of I think the Holy Mother says it's like if you hold on to God, where your leg was supposed to be cut off, you would get pricked by a needle. So where it could like it's similar idea. It's like if you observe this discipline, it will save you from great fear. So oh, the assurance that Sri Krishna gives, it's very comforting. Um, so whenever you're kind of lost, sometimes reading a few verses can give you great assurance and kind of calm you down. So I think that's a very beautiful verse to end on the whole session. If you have anything to add, Ashuri?
No, you summed it up beautifully. But yeah, so we ended just in time when 11 hit. But I know everyone was looking forward to the wheel, but we'll push that back to the next time we have online class. Today was just a lot of verses. So that's why like we took the time to like read the verses so you guys know. But in the next 2 weeks, be sure to practice these next 20 verses. And then when we come back, we'll do the wheel and everyone will be more prepared. It'll be a lot more fun. Um, maybe we'll do like everything up to 40, but just practice these verses, read over the meaning, do your journaling. And yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's better. So once everyone's practiced, kind of understands it, then we can kind of also discuss the meanings. Maybe we can like pose a few questions here and there to kind of get people talking. So it's gonna be a very interactive session next week, hopefully. Whatever it turns out to be. Um, and yeah, we're almost halfway through, more than halfway through the chapter. There's 72 verses, we've done 40. That leaves us with 32 more. So, yay. We have questions?
Aditya and Yashnu, do you guys have questions?
Please do the wheel next time. I really need this.
We will start with the wheel, trust.
Yeah, we'll do the wheel at the beginning.
Do you have a question on the three?
Yeah, so basically, for the homework, do we just write 3 verses and practice saying the chapter to 1 to 40?
What's the question?
Um, Out of the 40, like to choose 3 and then just to practice the verses.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, usually you would have like 3
Bye.
or 10 verses,
Yeah.
but because we did 20, um,
Verses?
I think it helps if you do 3 per 10,
Yeah.
but I understand why, like, because we covered a lot of verses, it's just gonna help you later on. You'll like be able to memorize it easier, and you'll just know the meaning more. So I would say like 3 verses per 10. So that's like 6 verses.
Okay, thank you.
And if you decide to do three, maybe another good practice could be to kind of like, you know how we said we clumped the verses together?
Yeah.
Maybe go through the verses. It's for everyone. It's like verses 20, like 8:19 to 24 is about the Atma. Like make it like like a summary of it, you know what I'm trying to say? So so that first of all, you'll have went through the verses, read the meanings, and then you're kind of like preparing for the exam as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
But you can do
about
either option.
yeah, or you can do both. Um about Christmas break in the chat. Oh, you guys don't see it. Um, I don't know if I don't think we have off for Christmas break for Gita class. So whatever the syllabus says, I think the only thing bound to change in the syllabus is the date of the exam. So instead of the date of the exam, we'll just have a normal class. So other than that, everything should be correct on that syllabus. So yeah.
Bye.
Wait, concluding prayer. Who wanted to do it last time? Was it Aditri?
I think yeah, it was Aditya who wanted to do it.
Do you want to do it?
Which one?
The Bhumi Mangala.
I don't know if I want to do it now.
Okay, it's all good. Anyone else? Oh, Kanishi and Kinita go. Ortid wants to do it. Ooh,
Has Arthit ever done it before?
no, I don't think so.
Um, Kinisha, Kanita, can we let Arthit do it today? Because I know you guys have done it before.
Okay, maybe like twice.
Yeah. So let's let everyone have a chance.
Okay.
So-
He says he needs the sheet.
okay, let me
Oh.
put up the sheet right now.
Okay.
Do you see it? Okay, Arti, go ahead.
Bhumi Mangalam, Bhumi Mangalam, Udaka Mangalam, Udaka Mangalam, Agni Mangalam, Agni Mangalam, Vayu Mangalam, Vayu Mangalam, Gagana Mangalam, Gagana Mangalam, Surya Mangalam, Surya Mangalam, Chandra Mangalam, Chandra Mangalam, Dehamangalam, Dehamangalam, Manomangalam, Manomangalam, Jivamangalam, Jivamangalam, Atmamangalam, Atmamangalam, Sarvamangalam, Bhavatu, 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 Sarvamangalam, Bhavatu, Bhavatu, Bhavatu. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.